Peace, family. So, today is Monday, January 20th, 2020. And today's topic for the 10% Happier Self-Care Journey is anxiety and meditation. So, hello to everyone here. Hey, Naya. Hey, sis. How you doing? Happy 2020 to you. How are you? Been a long time. I hope you're well. So, anxiety, putting my camera down too far. Anxiety and meditation. Let's talk about it. So, with anxiety, meditation is extremely helpful. And I'll tell you a little bit about the background of this. Thanks for all the hearts and all the love. Feels good. It feels good. Oh, that's the wrong song to sing with this backing track. But anyway. So I'll give you a little bit of background again. This is the 10% Happier Self-Care Journey. And this is my own personal journey, which is just my self-care journey. But right now I am in a meditation course that's called 10% Happier. And you can download the app right from the Android or iOS store. It's a great app with tons of great contributors. Somebody who's watching this at some point, please drop a line as like a testimonial, because there's been a few people since I started telling people about this app that have gone and actually downloaded and really has some tremendous results. So if you're one of those people, please drop a line. So I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory, because that's what's going to take us into this anxiety thing. So tell you how I found out about this app. So about maybe 2 years ago, I had a panic attack. And it was the first time. And even though I didn't, part of me didn't know what it was, but then midway through the experience. So I would say even a little bit earlier than midway. So a fourth of the way through the experience, something triggered in my brain where I was like, I think this is a panic attack, right? Hey, Elizabeth. Thank you so much. Yeah, glad you appreciate everything. So, hey, Heaven, Harper. So, a fourth of the way through this panic attack experience, my brain started realizing what was going on. I was like, I think this is a panic attack, just based off of the symptoms that I was having. Now, needless to say, because it was the first time, it was hard to really control the feelings that I had. And the good thing was I did stay put, because I knew that with the thoughts and the feelings that I was having, it didn't make sense to leave the house or what have you. I knew the best thing to do was stay put. And at the time, I had experienced it with someone who I trusted really well, so their presence really helped as well. So I managed to get through that experience. I stayed put, and afterwards I immediately started doing, some research. And so I was looking up the symptoms, realized that it was a panic attack, and then I came across different articles, different people who experienced it and, were speaking on it. So one that I came across, which was probably in the top results, was a news anchor named Dan Harris. If you are not familiar with Dan Harris, I don't know if he's still there, but the ABC News is where Dan Harris is from. So I ran across Dan Harris's story, and his story was that he had a panic attack on the news, actually. Oh, and one more thing while I'm doing this, I'm going to paste the notes to the chat so that you all can see exactly what we're talking about today. All right, there we go. So Dan had a panic attack, and it led him on a path of learning about meditation and mindfulness and all these other things. So with that, I was watching his story, and then he wound up going on that journey and learning and documenting it to, making his own course. And that course is the 10% Happier course. And so I had learned about it a couple years ago, and my goal was to get into it. I finally got into it it's been about maybe a month and a half now. Tremendous, so I'm I'm shamelessly becoming a poster child for the 10% Happier app, and I'm shamelessly plugging it. Download it for sure. So that was really helpful because, one of the things, I learned a few things about having a panic attack that we'll actually talk about in this. In fact, I'll save that for the notes so I don't repeat it. But the point is that since I got into this, it has really helped with anxiety. It's really helped with stress. It really helps with feelings of depression, like deeply. So if you're not into meditation or mindfulness of some sort, highly recommend it. I've always been a person that's been a meditative person and a mindful person. So that's, the reason why my whole life I've been pretty even keeled, pretty even tempered. But as time goes on, different things happen. You have health challenges, you have more responsibilities, you have more reasons to stress. So in this most recent part of my life, I was dealing with a lot of stress and anxiety. And this has changed everything. So now this has turned into a journey of me practicing and applying, me sharing that with others, documenting it, sharing it, and sharing the education on it with anybody and everybody that I can, because that's what my personal brand is about and what I stand for as a person. And then lastly, finding my place in it, like what you hear in the background, which are, my particular works and my contribution to this same field of health, mindfulness, meditation, and wellness. Hello, lovely Miss Gianna. Thank you for watching. I like to say people's name that have names like lovely in it or pretty and those kind of things. So, Shelly Johnson. Hey, Kyra. How are you today? So, here we are with the practice. For me, the practice and application, the sharing of information, and the education and the inspiration of the journey, as well as giving my own contributions, of which I have a few to tell you about today. Only touching on it in this video, but if you join me for Mood Mondays tonight at 7 p.m., then we'll go into the full thing. Hey Darren, how's it going, bro? Okay, so that's what the 10% Happier app is to me. That's how I got to it. And now let's talk about anxiety and meditation. Anxiety is described as a state of extreme apprehension and worry with a strong expectation of negative outcomes. While anxiety is a normal reaction to stressful situations, if it is experienced for an excessively long amount of time without recovery, it can greatly be debilitating. That's the first note that you'll see in the chat with my list of notes. It can be greatly debilitating, and all of us have gone through anxiety of some sort. I never really dealt with it. Honestly, maybe hearing it. Well, I guess I actually have now that I think about a particular portion of my life. I actually have, but it didn't get to the degree that it got to at this stage in my life. So, yeah, that's the definition of it, and let's talk about the fact for just, 30 seconds about the fact that it is absolutely normal. Let's start there. Anxiety is a normal response to stress. Anxiety is not the issue because that can lead you to changing your patterns, your choices, like literally in the moment. If you just all of a sudden have a moment of anxiety about something, that's a normal response to stress. So that's normal, and stress itself is normal because the stress response, which releases your which raises your cortisol levels, your norepinephrine, hey Dar, thanks for hanging out, your adrenaline, increasing your awareness, your energy, your acute sense of self, your ability to fight or flight, like all that kind of stuff. That's normal. It's the only reason why you and I could be talking right here today. It's literally due to the normal response of stress and those kind of things and how it allows us to survive and to stay alive. So that's normal. When we talk about getting rid of stress or getting rid of anxiety, we're actually talking about what it's saying here, which is if it is experienced for an excessively long amount of time without recovery, it can be debilitating. That's what we're really talking about. And I like to speak about it that way because I feel like in a lot of ways, in our thought processes about these things, I feel like we speak in very oversimplistic terms. We oversimplify a lot of things, and I think that is helpful to realize that and not oversimplify things, because when we oversimplify, we miss out on some nuances. We miss out on a bunch of nuances. And if we miss out on the nuances, then that doesn't allow us to deal with the subject in a very realistic and healthy way. So for many of us, when we say things like fear is not normal or it's not natural, or even if I take, like I did before, if I take a jab at the idea or the scripture of like God has not given us the spirit of fear and those kind of things, right? Not to make this a religious topic, but I'm throwing that in there to add to it so we can all relate to it. When we speak about these things in that way, we're oversimplifying, because fear is natural and normal. If you didn't have fear, you would not be here today. If our species didn't have fear, because there's a healthy sense of it. What we're talking about is the excessive amount. That's what we're all trying to get rid of or ward off or stay away from. So, that's that. Okay, studies show that meditation and mindfulness greatly reduces the experience of anxiety. I can attest to that firsthand. And it's wild because, you think about it in a cliche way. Like, if you're experiencing something, take a deep breath, or, if you haven't meditated, you hear it, that meditation, can greatly reduce stress. But it's one of those things you can't really express in words until you experience it. Like, things that would normally bother you just don't naturally bother you, because after your meditation, you're like in a place where it literally permeates like your whole life. It's literally like a state, but it's just from taking a few minutes to do that yourself, or taking 30 seconds to do that yourself. And you all of a sudden notice that things that would normally bother you or make you anxious or upset, like they just don't as fast. You have a way of detaching from the situation because you are practicing. And that's the thing I like about this, using the word practice when it comes to meditation and mindfulness, because it really is a practice. It's not something that you do and you master. You just keep practicing. It's just like going to the gym. You go to the gym, you can get as many muscles as you can get with pushing the weight or doing the cardio, adding the intensity. The truth is, there's never a point where you can get to where you're like, cool, like I've done this for 1,000 days straight, right? So it's been 3 years and some change, and I'm good now. I'm good, like straight now, and I've lifted all the weights out. Like, nah. As soon as you stop, then your body composition changes. So it's the same way with meditation. It's just an ongoing practice, not something that you ever expect to get to some, nirvana state where you no longer like. And that's another jab too at different philosophies where that's thought to be the case. I just don't really believe that to be the case. We just don't have evidence of that. What we have evidence of is that if you keep practicing, you'll get to a point where shit just won't pull you out of your comfort zone as easily. And that's it. And to me, that's a great place to take solace in and keep on going with that. So anyway, studies show that meditation and mindfulness greatly reduces the experience of anxiety. And I can deeply attest to that. So last two things, and we're going to go into another place where we're going to do a little bit of a med for the day. What's up, Kev? Keon, thanks for hanging out, y'all. Okay, last two notes. Here we go. Being aware and present with the feelings you have during anxious situations, and using phrases like, it's okay to feel this way. And actually, I had another phrase. I must have erased it. Here's the other phrase. This feeling, although real, is only temporary. What up, bro? These things can help you to relax through times of anxiety, depression, and panic attacks. Now, so I'm gonna go back for a second because this was one of the biggest things I learned after I had the panic attack that I had. Once I did the research, the very first thing that I found out was that, first thing is that the first time is always the worst before you're like totally aware of what you're dealing with and how to deal with it. So in studying some material, one of the things that I came across was some phrases like this to say, like, this feeling is real, but it's only temporary. And all of a sudden it does a flip in your mind where instead of freaking out because it's just overwhelming, you just can't handle it, all of a sudden now you have a little bit more room, a little bit more space. You have a little bit more space, a lot more space really a lot of times, because you realize like, okay, this cool. So all right, I am feeling this way. This is real. So I'm not denying my experience. But at the same time though, this feeling is only temporary, and continuing to repeat that to yourself. Hey Andrea, Lovey, how you doing? Happy New Year. That really helped because after that time, that wasn't the last time I had the feelings of an onset of a panic attack. It was just the last time I actually had like a full-blown panic attack. And what I noticed was that just the fact that I experienced it before, so I was aware, just the awareness literally increased my capacity. It made it be where I could be with the feelings, I could be present, I could realize what was going on, and I could experience, I could note the feelings and be aware of the feelings without being the feelings, like without it actually having me wrapped up. And one of the best ways that I love to use to describe this is a little metaphoric thing that I came up with a long time ago. And that was, imagine like when I first started studying meditation, and I was realizing that like the goal wasn't to like, there wasn't a way where you were gonna like not have thoughts, because you could not have thoughts, but you'd be dead at that time. So it wasn't a way for you not to have thoughts, but there was a way for you to detach from your thoughts so that you could observe the thoughts, see them, but actually be in this other place of peace where the thoughts didn't have to stop and you didn't have to go running to engage them and to figure them out, right? That metaphor for me was like, thoughts are in the head. So I imagine like this river of thoughts, like literally this flow of thoughts that was just like happening. Almost like, how you look at the bottom of the screen when you're looking at a news station like CNN or you're looking at ESPN, and there's that ticker down the bottom, like it's always going with announcements. Hey Andrea, I just saw your message. Drop me a line to let me know exactly what you're referring to. Refresh my memory if you can. So you know how you see that ongoing flow of just like information at the bottom of the screen? I imagine that as like how our thoughts go, right? And it got to a point where I realized immediately that the point was to literally, instead of being in the kayak, right, being in that river of thoughts and being in the kayak where everything's just, tossing you around and you're trying to like adjust to it and figure it out and fix it and avoid the route, like all that kind of stuff. It was the difference between being in a kayak, being in the kayak in the river, paddling and with all your gear on, wrestling with the water, and actually being somebody who's on the side of that same like river on a picnic blanket, just kind of relaxing, enjoying the flow of the river. Like the two things are still happening. You still have a person, you still have a river. It's just that instead of the person being in the river being tossed around by the thoughts, in this case, you had a person that was on the side, relaxed and observing it. And I swear, ever since I had that analogy in my head, it's helped me out with this whole process. So, that's what this is all about. It's about being able to be present and aware with the feelings, while at the same time not being the feelings. Andrea says, I was confused. I was like, I didn't send him. Oh, right. I'm sorry. I always forget. I know some beautiful and fabulous Andreas, and I forget. I didn't realize. I'm like, oh, that's right. Both my Andreas in the place. Okay. So, yeah. And the funny part about that is that I actually know two Andrea Williams. I only know one Pyatt, but I know two Williams too. So, but all the Andreas I know are great people. So kudos to the Andreas of the world. Okay, so the goal is to be present and aware. The goal is to observe while not being caught up in the river. So doing a body scan can help you to relieve stress and anxiety in the body by bringing awareness and being present intentionally with each part of the body. And so what we're going to do actually for these last couple moments is just do that. I'm going to practice the practice. So we're going to do a body scan, and the goal literally is, I swear this is so simple, right? But the goal literally is to just go from being unaware of what's going on in your body to actually just gently noticing and not even really having to do anything about it, but just noticing it. And then there'll be some places where we'll be able to directly do something about it, because we will be holding ourselves. Hey, Marion. We would be holding ourselves tightly or holding tension or being uptight, being just having tension or stress or whatever in that part. So we're just going to do that. Altogether, this practice is only going to be about 3 minutes, because I like to do things in a short way. To me, it's more helpful that way because it allows it to be accessible to everyone. And I always say, right, I'll make this real quick. For anybody that's listening that's inexperienced, meditation, again, is not about not having thoughts. Meditation is not about like having a clear mind and it's like, okay, now I can start meditating. It's actually the process of going back and forth between having a focus on like a breath or a part of the body or being present in a particular way and actually noticing the thoughts and going back and forth and being with it. You're going to get distracted. That's normal. The point is to bring yourself back. When I improvise, this is another analogy that I use to describe it. And it was what helped me to understand improvisation as I started studying it. When I improvise, and then when anyone improvises who is like really good at it or has practiced it, to the average listener or the person who is not an improviser musically, it appears like you hear this amazing solo, you hear this amazing like thing, right? And it's subjective, right? So I won't even go into that, right? But the point is like when you hear something that you enjoy, you hear this person in motion, right? The music is going, the time is going, and they're just making all of these great choices. And some of the greatest solos sound like they were pre-orchestrated, like the solo was written because it's executed so well. So I remember one time when I first started studying improvisation, I read an article, and I can't remember who it was by. It might have been by like a Herbie Hancock or somebody that was just in that kind of iconic status. And when they were asked to explain it, what they said was, what you're really seeing is a fast reaction time, not so much always the greatest execution or something that's quote unquote perfect in execution. What you're seeing is someone whose mind and whose ear is so fast at reacting that they could feel a thought or notice something or make a mistake. And I love the mistake part because that really resonates with me deepest. You could, in the moment, you're making all of these quick choices, but it's because of the fact of how quick your awareness is. So you've already corrected the mistake or made the turn faster than a person who has a much slower reaction time, maybe because they don't do this whatever. And that changed everything for me because I was like, oh, that makes all the sense in the world. I could relate that not only to music and improvisation, but even the concept of these figures that we worship and that we call quote unquote perfect. I'm like, wait a minute, a more practical idea is just that this person is not, nixed from having the same thoughts and feelings that we have. Like, if you're human, you're human, or if you experience this from. But like, maybe what it is they're able to react so fast to their feelings that it appears to the rest of us that they got the shit all figured out and that it's all perfect and they never mess up. They never have. And so I realized that about everything. So anyway, that's short story. That's long, short story long actually, because I can't help being long winded. But that's the long and long of it. So that's what we're going to practice. And so we're going to start this meditation with something that is at the helm of my personal like style and brand, so to speak, of this practice that I'll always be sharing and creating, programs around, all that kind of stuff. And that's the 30-second meditation technique. So we're going to do 30 seconds of deep breathing. We'll take 3 deep breaths and 10 seconds of mindfulness. And then we're just going to do a body scan for, a minute or 2. And that's it. So, join me if you will, no matter where you are. You don't have to close your eyes. You don't have to do anything special. You don't need the perfect candles and lighting and stuff. All right. Namaste. Here we go. So, first just relax and settle in. You can close your eyes or you can keep them open, whatever works best for you. And we're going to just take 30 seconds to realize the importance and the opportunity of something that's so close to us, so simple and always available, which is a deep breath. So we're going to take a deep breath in and out. Take a deep breath in and out. Deep breath in and out. And one more deep breath in and out. So we're going to start from the top of our head, and we're just going to work our way down through the body, just gently and slowly, to just notice what's going on in that part of our body, and if there's any tension or stress or uptight feelings that we feel in that place that we just didn't know that was there. And it might not seem like much, but the gentle concept of just noting and just taking a moment to think about what's happening there is really all you need in order to practice mindfulness and awareness in this way. So let's start from the top of our head, and let's just notice in the top of our head, in our forehead, in our face, the jaw, the mouth. Just feel if there's any feelings of tightness or tension that you just didn't know was there. And just take a moment to just relax it. A lot of times we don't realize that we're making facial expressions due to our stress or anxiety that's just holding our face in a certain place and keeping us uptight. It could be something like, tightness in the jaw. If you feel tense, it could be an expression that has your forehead really tight or tense. You could be tensing your eyes and wincing and not realizing it. So just take a moment to just relax the whole head and face and all the muscles that are there. And then from there, you can just slowly start to go down into the neck and the shoulders. This is another place where it's very common to unknowingly and unintentionally hold stress and tension, especially when we're nervous or when we're anxious. We tend to hunch our shoulders. We tend to just be uptight in our shoulders and our neck and our arms. This is where a lot of our regular stress manifests. So just take a moment to just decompress there, relax your shoulders. Sometimes I even like to just roll the shoulders, because that just starts to release anything that you feel in that area, even that you didn't know that you feel. take a moment from there to go to your arms and really feel your arms, your biceps, your triceps, and your forearms to see. Take a minute to take your hands and just move around your fingers and just release any stress that you might be having in your hands. That's another place where we clench a lot of times and don't realize it. When we're nervous, we can clench our fists and close our palms, especially because the middle part of the palms is a really vulnerable place when we open them up or when they're exposed. So a lot of times we'll clench our fists and not realize it. So from there, let's just take our attention and awareness to our chest and abdomen, to the stomach area, and just realize if there's any tension or tightness there. It's another place where nervousness and uneasy feelings really show up. And sometimes we can just clench our abdomen and our stomach just because of insecurity with how we look or how we feel. So we have to let this relax as well. Just kind of let it all relax. So you can take that from there to your pelvis area, your groin area. These are all places where we can feel really uptight and really tense. If it helps you, you can imagine things like a light flowing through your body, just kind of entering these different areas, investigating. You can imagine an airflow going through your body, or some people like to imagine like a water flow going through their body. Whatever helps you to just kind of continue to be aware in these places and just feel this kind of awareness that continues from the last place that you left off. It just continues to permeate so that each place stays relaxed and doesn't go back to being tense again. Before we go to the bottom half of our body, let's just take a second to focus on the breath again and take a deep breath in and out. A second deep breath in and out. And one more deep breath in and out. So one of the things that I find helpful is when I do inhales and exhales, to take that breath and to actually intentionally flow it to the part of the body that I'm focusing on at that time. Wherever I'm focusing, I just imagine that breath kind of going to it to relieve the tension and stress in that area. So from there, let's just take our attention and awareness to the lower part of our body, your legs and your thighs. See if you're holding them tight or clenching them. Your thighs, these are large muscles, so a lot of times we can harbor a lot of stress and tension there because these muscles can take a lot of tension and they can withstand a lot of clenching. You know, they work to uphold us and keep us upright and keep our motions going. So a lot of times we can have unnecessary tension in those areas. So just take a moment to just decompress. And even if you're already relaxed, just go deeper. Just try to feel a deeper sense of relaxation in that place. So extend that down from your quads and your glutes and your hamstrings and take it down into your shins and in your calf muscles. If you have pain in any of these areas, just take a moment to just notice it and to just be gentle with it. You can even extend compassion to yourself in that area, or you can extend empathy even. All these things actually wind up helping you to be mindful at that particular place in your body. So let's just move the attention from there down to the feet, the toes. This is another place where a lot of times we can hold tension. We can curl our toes a lot of times and not realize it under stress. So just take a minute to just move your toes around. Be a kid again and just kind of wiggle your toes and release any stress. If you're like me, you'll start to hear your toes crack and pop and that kind of thing. And that's cool too, because you're just really releasing tension and, that kind of thing in between your joints there. So just as a final moment of this practice, just take one final moment to just feel your body in totality. Just do a whole body scan where you just do a quick scan and just feel if there's any place where tension has crept back in, or a place where you overlooked. Maybe take your attention to your back muscles. It was one of the places that we didn't quite cover. And just see if there's any tension there. Maybe even loosen your shoulders again, roll them and roll your back, and just kind of extend yourself to be able to just loosen up anything you feel there. And so to complete this practice, we're just going to take 4 more final deep breaths in and long exhales out to just expel any final tension that may be there. So take a deep breath in and out. Deep breath in and out. Take a deep breath in and out. One more final big deep breath in and out. Take a few final moments to just be right there in that presence of mindfulness, to just have gratitude for yourself and gratefulness and thankfulness to yourself for taking the time to devote a few minutes to your self-care. This part of the practice is just as important as everything else that you accomplish here. It kind of seals the deal, if you will, because it gives you the attitude of positivity towards what you're doing for yourself, and that in itself is therapeutic. So just take a few moments to just extend gratitude for taking this time for your self-care. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and you can join back into the stream. So that felt good. Will, thanks for hanging out. Greg, Edith, you all crept on in here with me while I had my eyes closed. Devin, thanks for hanging out. Hey, Jan. Andrea says, yo, the improv explanation. Thanks, Andrea. I really appreciate it. That was really something that hit me big. I was like, oh my gosh. Reacting, like you just are observing a person that has a faster and faster awareness to react, not someone who doesn't have these thoughts or these feelings or these emotions or these experiences anymore. And to me, that is way more realistic than anything else that we've talked about, especially in the idea of perfection or perfect beings and entities. piece. So that really resonates with me. And so Andrea also says exactly, it's observing without judgment. Couldn't be more on point, Andrea. So the last thing I'll say, and then we're done the session for the day. In really revisiting and really going deeper as far as this mindfulness thing right now in this place in my life, one of the things that I realized about the definition of mindfulness is that I always knew the awareness part. Like I always knew that mindfulness was being aware and that kind of thing, like taking into consideration, another person's thoughts or that kind of thing. But the thing I didn't realize about mindfulness was that in the definition, one of the biggest parts of the definition is the lack of judgment, observing without judgment. That non-judgmental piece took me through the roof. Because when you're practicing that with yourself and with your thoughts, that right there is the most groundbreaking experience. Is feeling the feelings and not having any judgment around how you feel or what it's doing to you or how it's manifesting in you. That, for some problems, that literally alleviates it right there. It allows you to let it go. So that lack of judgment. So thanks, Andrea, for reaffirming that with me. Yeah, so on that note, we're done for the day. I hope you appreciated this. I really enjoyed practicing. I enjoyed getting the opportunity to practice the guided meditation here. And yesterday, I'll make a quick note of it, and I'll talk about it way more on Move Mondays. But yesterday, I got a chance to perform my guided meditation, Breathe Deeply, for the first time in front of a live audience, and it was tremendous. I'm going to put up the video shortly, so if you jump back to my page in a few, you'll see it. And I'm going to talk about it in depth tonight at 7 p.m. for Move Mondays. So join me back here then. Thanks for joining me now. And if you would like to support me to help me to continue to make content like this or the other content that you see, look for the info in the description or comments of this video. And that's about it. Take a moment to practice mindfulness and deep breathing throughout the course of your day to practice preventative meditation and preventative mindfulness. And as always, peace and be well. Take care.